Welcome to part 2 of the Treasures of Thanjavur as we celebrate the 1000th year of consecration of the Periya Kovil, which is the ultimate tribute that Rajaraja Chola paid to Lord Brihadishwara. Dancer and author Kalaimamani Lakshmi Vishwanathan's thematic dance recital on the subject of Thanjavur last Margali is my inspiration for this discussion with her. In the previous episode, we looked at the different dynasties, the Cholas, the Marathas, the Pandyas and the Nayaks. We talked about Thanjavur being the cradle for arts, culture and the crafts. We looked at the Tanjore Quartet. So I'm wondering if we can begin today by talking about some of the other composers, and who I have in mind is the Vaidiswaran Kovil Subbarama Iyer.
Yes, he was a prolific composer, and what was interesting is he composed in Tamil, very simple Tamil poetry which was adopted very well by dancers and gurus, and in fact the Devadasis had a vast repertoire of his songs which they used to sing and also use in the dance. I myself learnt a few, and I presented a very popular number called Aduvum Solluval. It's about a Nayika who is complaining, or rather jealous of a younger woman, and says, Aduvum Solluval. She will exaggerate because now she has found a true love and she is my competitor in every way. So she is sort of mocking and sarcastic about the younger woman. This particular dance, actually, to my knowledge, was danced by innumerable people on the stage, even in Chennai, in the early part of the 20th century. And what is interesting is it reflects the cultural ethos of the Devadasis themselves, because they lived in a world of patronage. Materialism was very important to them, and also they had impromptu poetry sessions where they used to dance to verses which were penned in their presence. So it reflects their time and their lifestyle.
I think it also reflects the politics, because if you lost favor with the king or with the patron, you were in trouble. So you had to be.
Yes, there was a kind of an intrigue, one would say a social intrigue, which was acceptable at that time because everybody knew the status of the Devadasi in society and what she stood for. So they had these playful rhymes and songs, and it afforded them enough scope for expression. So they became popular even in the modern era.
That is indeed a very beautiful piece, Lakshmi. And now we talk about the Oduvars, and the story goes that King Rajaraja Chola approached Nambiandar Nambi, who was a very scholarly man believed to have been blessed by Lord Ganesha. So the Raja went to him and asked him to recover the original Tevarams which were in the Sanctum Sanctorum of the Nataraja, the temple in Chidambaram, the Nataraja temple. Now it was very difficult to go into the Garbhagriha because the priest would not let anybody but the original poets. So what the king did was he organized for a procession of the Vigrahams, and the priests were so impressed by the king's devotion that they allowed Nambiandar Nambi and the king to go inside. And apparently the palm leaf manuscripts were in such a state of collapse because the ants had eaten them. But whatever could be salvaged, Nambiandar Nambi wrote 12 Tirumarais, right? And about 3,000 singers were appointed by the king to sing these verses, and they were called the Oduvars.
Yes, you see, Rajaraja had his own idea of propagating what we can now describe eloquently as Tamil Bhakti. These Tevaram songs were in approachable Tamil, and they were full of the passion and bhakti of the poets themselves. And don't forget that these poets were in fact responsible for miracles in many of the temples that they visited. So there are signifiers for each great abode of Shiva in these songs, and it is a treasure of Tamil poetry for us today. The fact that even today all the temples have Oduvars who are singing these songs is almost a kind of wondrous situation. It makes us believe in our own culture in a very significant way. And I personally believe that in the olden days, the Devadasis must have used some of these old verses in their dance presentations, both during the Utsavam in the temple and also outside.
பிரியாத சிற்றம்பலம் நாடினாய் இடம நறுங்கொன்றை நயந்தவனே.
So each Tirumurai, Lakshmi tells me, is like an anthology which contains a set number of Tevarams composed by different authors such as
Tirunjana Sambandar, Sundaramurthy Nayanar and Tirunavukarasar. Then you have Manika Vasagar and a host of other poets who have contributed in a very significant way, because the poetry is known to every Tamil citizen, and because of the bhakti element, you see, they are sung even today.
So not only do they have an intense bhakti value, but also a lot of literary merit and contain profound philosophies as well.
Yes, in fact, they are almost like another aspect of our Vedas, because the philosophy and other information that you get through these songs has even today not been fully analyzed. And of course, they are beautiful poetry. It's difficult to imagine sometimes that one person sang all these songs.
Stay tuned. After a short break, Lakshmi Vishwanathan will talk about Gopalakrishna Bharati's Nandanar Charitram, and we'll also get to see a bit of her dance performance of the same. Stay tuned. I'm in conversation with author and dancer Kalaimamani Lakshmi Vishwanathan on the treasures of Thanjavur.